Hi guys, Paul Cummins here from Love Life Properties. This video is about snagging. It's about snagging from the point of view of refurbishing old properties. When I started in property, I worked with a more experienced investor and he had a refurbishment business. So I project managed around 35 refurbs in the space of a year and a half. So I just wanted to share some of the stuff that I learned, some of the patterns that I saw when it came to snagging. I'm going to explain a little bit about what snagging is, what it means, and then I'm going to do a tour of my latest refurb project and just point out some of the common things that come up in snagging. So the first thing is, snagging is effectively a list of outstanding tasks at the end of a project. I think a lot of people have the perception that snagging is the opportunity to find defects. That is part of it, but it is also a list of outstanding tasks that the builder has to complete. The reason these tasks occur is, for example, if a tradesman, it can be a painter, it can be a joiner, whatever, electrician, it might be their final day on that job and it might come to the end of the day, it's like 5 p.m, it's a Friday and they've got perhaps 1 hour's worth of work left, but it's the end of the day. So they don't do that extra hour of work. They leave and they go home, and so they should. So they're not going to be sent back onto that job on Monday morning because they only have a small amount of work to do. Now, they might have an hour to drive to get to that job, and it might take them an hour to do the work, it might take them 15 minutes, it might take them 20 minutes, and they might have an hour to drive back, and then they might have to go an hour in the opposite direction to go to their next job. So you can waste a lot of time on small tasks at the end of a job. It's not very cost effective for the builder, and it's also not very cost effective for the client. So that job gets added to snagging at the end because that tradesman is going to have to go back in anyway to do snagging. So that's why when you turn up to do snagging, there are outstanding tasks, but the builder should know about them. And I've noticed in the past that people do get quite upset at times and they get quite stressed out, and their expectation was that when they turned up to do snagging, that basically every single task would be complete. And they were there just to try and see things that perhaps the builder hadn't seen. And it came up again and again and again and again. So I just wanted to make this video just to try and point out that in the real world, that's not necessarily how it works. When you turn up to do snagging, there will be outstanding tasks, but the builder will know about them. And he should be able to say, yes, we know about that. Yes, we know about that. Yes, we know about that. And then if you spot anything else that they haven't seen or that they've forgotten, then that gets added to the list as well. And then what happens is the builder goes away, he does all his outstanding tasks, and he does the new tasks that perhaps you've seen or things that you've spotted. And then that's it. The project gets signed off and you're good to go. So I'm going to take just a little tour of the house and just point out some things that, because I know when you start off, when you do your first refurbishment, you have no idea what you're looking at. I was the same. I was walking into places thinking everything was fine, but I had someone more experienced with me who was like, what about that? What about that? What about that? Stuff I hadn't seen or thought of. So here we go. So I'm going to start in the kitchen. There's just some common things. Oh, got my microphone stuck here. Common things that I certainly didn't think to check right at the very start. If you've got a new hood, these can often just be placed, the chimney can be placed on top of the hood, but the screws at the side, it's very easy to forget to do those. So just give that a wee wobble. If it's secure, that's fine, but sometimes they do just completely fall off. So it's worth checking that. When we're talking about hoods, another common thing is to forget to put in the filters. So the filters actually screw on to the side here. I don't know how well you can see that in the camera. It's a bit too bright in here, I think. I'll try the other side. That's better. So you can see here, the filters haven't actually been placed on this one. There's a little collar sticking out here. The filter should go on and twist. It's the same as if you've ever seen those dust masks with the two filters at the side. It's the exact same as that, same idea. A filter should go on at either side here. So they've forgotten to fit them here, or perhaps when they bought when the kitchen was ordered, the manufacturer forgot to include them. It's very common, happens all the time. Another very common thing is when the oven is being fitted, it comes with two screws. So there's a screw here and a screw here, and that basically stops the oven being pulled out of the unit, so that when you open it and it's hot, it doesn't fall out on top of you. It's so common for those screws to get forgotten about, and it was the same on this project. So when I opened the oven, the little packet with the two black screws were sitting inside it, but I had a screwdriver with me, so it took 2 seconds, put in the two screws, and we're good to go. If you've had a new splashback fitted, like a tile splashback, or if the wall's been plastered as well, it's always worth just checking around the edge, and especially in around the units, the cupboard units, like up under here, just to make sure there's no gaps, things like that. It's, again, very easy to miss things like that. Another very common one is to make sure that all the fittings are plumbed in for the washing machine. And in fact, that there's a hole in the cupboard here for the socket of the washing machine to come through, or the plug of the washing machine to come through. That gets forgotten about a lot as well. And it's often not until the tenant comes in and they're like, I don't know how to plug in my washing machine, that you find out. I guess the thing to do when you walk into any room is just to scan for anything that looks out of place. So look at the floor, look at the carpet, look around the edge of the room, look at the walls, look at the doors, look at the lights, just look all around, scan up high, scan around the middle, and scan down low, just for something that doesn't look right. In this property we have two-tone paintwork, so check what's called cutting in. So where you have the grey paint here with the white paint of the skirting board, you can see there's just some overlap on the grey paint. So I mean, some painters will tape off that, but most painters should be good enough with a proper cutting in brush to paint across the lines without overlap, but sometimes it happens. So it's not uncommon for the guys to come back and snagging and paint over the white bit again. Something you'll find, which in my opinion shouldn't happen, if you can see it here, this socket is covered in grey paint. That's a bugbear of mine. That's a brand new socket. It shouldn't be covered in paint. Stuff like that should be taped off. So that's something that, yeah, that annoys me. Carpets should always be right to the edge of the room. Sometimes you'll see if the carpet guy has either been given the wrong measurement, or, sorry, someone's phoning me there. Either been given the wrong measurement, or he's cut off the wrong amount of material. He might try and hide it in the corner of a room. So do always check right to the corners of every room for the carpets to make sure there's no gaps. Another thing to watch out for as well, after the carpets get fitted, there's quite often damage to the skirting boards. Again, that's completely normal. The tool that they use is quite destructive to skirting boards. So you can even see here with this door, there's like black marks on it. Again, that's quite normal. That'll get picked up in snagging. It's just to be aware of it and to look out for it. A lot of stuff is quite repeatable really, but I'll just go from room to room and pick out different things. So on this particular one, this is a HMO, so it's got fire doors, which are all brand new in this property, and very expensive fire resistant hinges. So these are brand new, so they shouldn't have paint on them, but they do. So again, that's something that annoys me. They should be taped up. Some more paint just here as well. Don't know how well you can see that in the camera, just there and there. Some of the door handles had paint on them as well. A lot of the snagging has actually been already carried out in this property. So you just have to use your imagination. But this door handle had some paint on it. Around here where the guys had marked up where to put in the latches, there was a lot of pencil marks and things on the door frames. So that needed to be taken care of. This is a good tip as well, stickies. So I use an app on my phone to record anything I see that's outstanding. The builder knows about most of it anyway, it's just to make sure. So you can take a photo through the app, it's called Report and Run. And then it makes a PDF document, a report of all your photos, and you can add notes. So a little sticky helps a lot, because for example, if you've got a paint defect in the middle of a wall, a photograph of the middle of a wall isn't going to be very useful. You might not be able to identify what room it's in, which wall, or where on the wall it is. So a little pink sticky identifies something that you've missed. So with this one, this socket or switch is a little loose, and it's quite difficult to actually switch on and off. So do check all your light switches, check all your sockets. There is a little tool that you can get to plug into the socket, and it'll tell you if it's wired correctly or not. But also just get a phone charger and just plug it in, plug your phone into every socket and see if it works. It's a very easy way of doing it. I think that was everything else I was going to speak about in here. What else? Yeah, that was everything here. So we go upstairs now. So again, just cutting in here. You can just see it along there. And along here. So just keep your eyes peeled basically as you're walking around. You can see down here as well, just under this socket, there was a hole that was filled, but again, the builder knows about that. So that's getting sorted. So just something to point out in this room in particular, this piece of the room was added in, and it was added in with the intent of putting this wardrobe in there. But this radiator is too close to this wall, so the wardrobe won't fit in there. So location of radiators is something to consider, especially in like a HMO where you are putting furniture in there, because you know the size of the furniture beforehand. So if I was doing this again, this radiator would get moved 6 inches to the right, that's all it would take, and that wardrobe could go where it was intended. So again here, in fact I'll show you the other one. So these rooms have a feature wall in each room. So you can see there's actually paint on the socket here, which again is just something that in my opinion shouldn't happen. And again down here, there's a run over of the blue paint onto the skirting board. So sockets, around sockets and switches is a very common place for this to happen. It's just a wee gap. So this is an original wall. It wasn't plastered, but when the socket got changed, it just didn't, the socket wasn't quite big enough to cover the hole behind it. And that's quite easy, an easy fix. You just fill it with what's called caulk. It's very similar to silicone, but you can paint over it. And again, that's common. It's not a defect, it's not poor workmanship, it's pretty standard. And it's nothing to get upset over basically. So we're into the yellow room, which is my favorite because it's yellow. I like the color yellow. So in here, basically, this wall was plastered, and the idea of the timber around the door frame is the facing, and what that does is it basically fills the gap from the wooden door frame to the plastered wall, which actually can be quite a rough, uneven surface. But sometimes the plaster perhaps misjudged it, and the door facing doesn't quite cover the gap, and you can see an example of that just here. So you can see the facing doesn't quite cover the gap, but again, that's just a matter of filling it. It's not a big deal. It's not something that's worth getting upset over. Just point it out and it'll be filled with caulk or a suitable filler. I think that was everything in here really. Just the same stuff in every room. Sockets, carpets, paint, it's same. So we go into a bathroom here. So this bathroom has shower board. It's very common as well. This is quite a dark bathroom because it's very dark grey. And when the guy was fitting the shower board, it wouldn't have had lights, so it was very dark in here. But you can see up right in the corner here, just here, there should be some sealant or some silicone there, but that was forgotten about. So it's always worth checking in the corners where one wall joins another. So where the wall joins the ceiling, always check that it's sealed. Always check that the boards are together properly and there's no gaps. Always check your sanitary ware. So make sure the taps work, make sure the hot water works, make sure nothing leaks. Same with the shower, don't be afraid to try the shower, make sure it works, make sure the water goes hot, make sure it goes cold, make sure the door doesn't leak, all that kind of stuff. Switch the heating on, make sure that works. That's kind of it really. I can't think of anything else. So basically, carpets, check the edges of the rooms. In the kitchen, check around the tiling. Check the chimney on top of the hood. Make sure the hood has filters in it. Check around the splashback tiling. Check your paintwork. And just generally have a good scan. I would suggest it's a good idea to spend a bit of time in the property. Quite often when you walk in for half an hour and walk back out, you miss a lot. It's not really until you actually start looking around and spending a bit of time in it that you spot a lot of these things. So that's it. If you found this video at all useful, let me know. Like it, share it, comment on it. If there's any questions you have, or if there's stuff that I've left out, please ask. I'd gladly welcome any feedback. If you enjoyed the video, I might make some more. If there's anything in particular you would like me to cover or discuss, please let me know and I'll try and do that. So yeah, hopefully you got something out of this. Cheers.